The air was thick with the scent of fresh flowers and polished oak as the guests settled into the grand hall of St. Martin's Chapel. The sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across the polished wooden floor. Soft classical music played in the background, and laughter bubbled in the corners as friends and family greeted one another. I watched from the balcony above, hidden behind the veil of my own thoughts. It should have been my happiest day, the day I finally said yes to the love of my life. But destiny, it seemed, had other plans. Earlier that morning, a tragic car accident had taken my life on the highway outside the city. My body lay cold in the hospital, and yet, somehow, my consciousness hovered, suspended, invisible to everyone but him. I saw him first, the groom, his face a mixture of excitement and nerves. He didn't know yet that I was gone. I watched as he smoothed his tie, unaware that the person he had promised forever to was no longer in the living world. Then, a strange feeling stirred in me, a pull toward him, stronger than any I had ever felt in life. I moved closer, my steps silent, unnoticed. And when our eyes met across the crowded room, something unexplainable passed between us. The officiant began to speak, and I felt my presence become heavier, more tangible. He looked around, suddenly freezing, as if sensing me. His voice trembled as he called out, "Wait. I see her. She's here." Gasps erupted from the crowd. Heads turned. Confused whispers spread like wildfire. And I knew then that this wedding would not be ordinary, it would be remembered forever, because the impossible had just happened. I, the bride, was here. Alive in spirit, though dead in body. And he, the man I loved more than life itself, was about to speak to me in front of everyone, shaking the very foundations of their reality. The room fell into stunned silence. Every eye in the chapel turned toward him, the groom, who now stood frozen at the altar. His hand trembled as he pointed directly toward the empty space beside him. I see her, he whispered, his voice barely audible at first. Then, louder, "She's here. She's right here." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Some guests backed away in confusion, others exchanged worried glances, thinking he had lost his mind. But I could see the intensity in his eyes. It wasn't madness. It was love, raw and undeniable, reaching across the impossible boundary that separated life and death. I tried to move closer to him, to reassure him, to let him know that I was still here in some way. But the space between the living and the dead seemed solid, unyielding. I could only watch as he took a deep breath, raising his hands as if to shield himself from the disbelief around him. "My bride," he said, his voice breaking, "I know you can hear me. I know you're here. And I won't let this moment pass. Not now. Not ever." A few brave guests whispered, "Is he seeing a ghost?" Others shook their heads in disbelief. The officiant looked lost, unsure whether to continue or stop the ceremony, and then, something miraculous happened. I felt a warmth in the room, a gentle breeze that seemed to pass directly through him. My presence reached him, and for the first time since the accident, I felt like I was truly there, tangible in a way that went beyond words. That he closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face, and spoke again, louder this time, as if the whole world needed to hear, "I love you. I will love you, even if I can never hold you again." A shiver ran through the room. Some guests cried, others whispered prayers. And I realized that what was happening wasn't just a wedding, it was a testament to a love that could defy death itself. The chapel was still, but the air buzzed with a tension that made every guest uneasy. Some clutched their purses or hymnals, others whispered to each other, trying to make sense of what they had just witnessed. Yet, no one could deny the raw emotion emanating from the groom, or the inexplicable presence that seemed to hang in the air beside him. That I wanted to reach out, to touch him, to reassure him that I was still here, but the rules of the living world held me back. My voice could not be heard. My hands could not be felt. All I had were thoughts and feelings, and somehow, he understood. That he looked around the room, eyes wide, scanning for anyone who might explain what was happening. "She's here," he said again, his voice steady now, though his hands shook. "She's with me. I don't know how, but she is. Please, believe me." Some guests gasped. Others began to pray quietly. A few brave souls dared to step closer, peering at the space beside him, trying to see what he saw. And that's when it began, tiny, almost imperceptible movements. A chair tilted slightly. A candle flickered without wind. The air seemed to shimmer, and a soft, familiar fragrance of roses, my favorite, wafted through the hall. The officiant cleared his throat nervously. We should proceed," he said, voice shaky, though he had no idea how to continue a wedding where the bride was, well, gone. The groom shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "No," he said firmly. "We cannot proceed like this. She needs me. I need her. Somehow, we will find a way. We always do." And then, I felt it, a pull, an energy between us, stronger than anything I had ever felt in life. Somehow, our bond reached beyond the veil of death, bridging the impossible gap. I could see the determination in his eyes and knew that no matter what the world said, our love would not end here. The guests watched, horrified and mesmerized, as he took a step forward, reaching into the empty space beside him. And in that moment, the impossible began to feel real. The guests were now whispering nervously, some frozen in place, unable to look away, while others edged toward the doors, unsure whether to flee or stay. The chapel felt like it existed in two worlds at once, the living and the dead. That I could feel him reaching for me, his hands stretching into empty space as if he could pull me back to him. I wanted so desperately to respond, to close the distance, but I was still bound by the invisible rules of the spirit world. Then he did something unexpected. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to speak, not to the guests, but to me. "I don't care what anyone thinks," he whispered. "I love you, and I'm not letting go. If there's a way, I'll find it. I'll do whatever it takes to bring you back, even if it means breaking the rules of life and death." His words resonated through the chapel, vibrating in the very walls. And that's when the first real signs appeared. Chairs creaked. Candles flickered violently. A sudden gust of wind swirled through the room, though no doors or windows were open. The guests gasped, some clutching each other in fear. The officiant stammered, I don't know what to do." But he didn't care. His eyes were fixed on me, unwavering. Slowly, He reached out again, this time with an intensity that made the air itself seem to bend toward him. I felt a tug, like a thread connecting us, and for a fleeting moment, I could almost step into his world, and then the most shocking thing happened. A soft voice, unmistakably mine, whispered his name. The guests froze. Some covered their mouths in disbelief. He turned toward the sound, eyes wide, and whispered back, I hear you. I hear you. The impossible had happened. For the first time since my death, we had communicated, not through gestures, not through feelings, but through words. The room held its collective breath. No one knew whether to be terrified, awed, or hopeful. And I realized that this wedding, once meant to celebrate a union in life, had now become a battleground of love, grief, and the supernatural, a test of whether our bond could truly transcend death itself. The chapel was in chaos. Guests whispered frantic theories, some crossing themselves, others filming the scene on their phones. The once elegant wedding had become something unrecognizable, a confrontation with the impossible, but he didn't notice any of it. His focus remained entirely on me. I know you're here, he said, his voice unwavering despite the panic around him. We've always found a way to be together, and I won't stop now. Then, something extraordinary happened. A soft glow began to shimmer around me, faint at first, like sunlight through fog. The glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, growing stronger with every word he spoke. Some guests gasped and stepped back, while others began to cry, sensing that what was happening was beyond explanation. The officiant, trembling, asked, Is this some kind of trick? No trick, he said firmly. This is real. She's here. I feel her. I love her, and she loves me. As the energy between us intensified, more subtle signs appeared. The wind swirled inside the chapel, rose petals lifted into the air without anyone touching them, and soft whispers echoed through the hall, calling his name. That I wanted to reach out, to show him that I was still with him completely, but the rules of the living and the dead still held me back. I could only send my emotions, love, longing, reassurance, and he somehow understood them perfectly. Finally, he made a bold decision. I don't care what anyone thinks, he declared, raising his voice so all could hear. I will not marry someone else. My heart belongs to her, now and forever. If there's a way to bring her back, I will find it. The crowd fell silent, shocked at his defiance. Some were horrified, some were moved to tears. And I felt it, our bond had grown stronger than ever. It was no longer just about witnessing the impossible, it was about proving that love could defy even death itself. The room seemed to hold its breath, knowing that what would happen next could change everything, not just for us, but for everyone who had ever believed in the limits of life and death. The chapel was charged with an energy no one could explain. Guests watched in awe and fear as the groom stood at the altar, his eyes locked on the empty space beside him. I could feel his determination, his love radiating like a beacon, and it was enough to weaken the barrier that separated the living from the dead. That he took a deep breath, closing his eyes. If love can't cross this divide, he said softly, then I'll build a bridge. I'll do whatever it takes to bring you back to me, even if it's impossible. And then it happened. A ripple of light spread across the chapel, like the shimmer of heat on a summer road. The rose petals lifted higher, twirling as if caught in a gentle storm. The guests held their breath, some whispering prayers, others gasping in disbelief that I felt a pull stronger than anything I had ever known. Slowly, slowly, I began to materialize, not fully, but enough for him to see me clearly. My hands were faintly visible, my face shimmering, my presence undeniable. He gasped, reaching out, and for the first time, our fingers brushed, not solid, but tangibly connected in a way that transcended life itself. "I'm here," I whispered, my voice barely audible, carried directly to his heart. "I'm still here." Tears streamed down his face as he gripped my ghostly hand. "I knew it," he said, voice breaking. "I never doubted it for a second." The guests watched, stunned, as the impossible unfolded before them. Some fell to their knees, overwhelmed by awe, others wept quietly, unable to comprehend the miracle they were witnessing. The officiant stared, speechless, unsure whether to continue the ceremony, or abandon it entirely. In that moment, we were no longer bound by the rules of the living or the dead. Our love had carved a path, a fragile bridge between two worlds. And though it was still uncertain how long I could remain, or whether the world would ever fully accept it, for now, we were together. It was a love that defied death, a bond that no tragedy, no accident, could ever sever. And the world would never forget this wedding, where the living and the dead spoke, touched, and loved in a way that nothing could erase. The chapel was quiet now, the chaos of disbelief giving way to a fragile reverence. The glow that surrounded me had softened, pulsing gently as if breathing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Our hands remained connected, bridging the impossible gap between life and death. He looked into my eyes, his face streaked with tears and awe. "I don't care what the world thinks," he said softly. "I will love you, always. And now, I know that even death can't take that away from us." I smiled, the warmth of our connection radiating through me. "And I will love you, even here," I whispered. "Even if I can't fully stay, even if I must eventually return to the other side, this moment, this love, is ours forever." The guests, once fearful and shocked, now watched with silent wonder. Some crossed themselves, some whispered prayers, and some simply wept, realizing they had witnessed something truly miraculous. Even the officiant, humbled and speechless, could only nod in awe, understanding that this was no ordinary wedding. Slowly, my presence began to fade, the shimmer dimming as the rules of life reasserted themselves. But the bond we had forged remained unbroken. He held my hand to his chest, feeling my essence in his very heart. "Goodbye, for now," I whispered, my voice carried on a gentle breeze that brushed against his cheek. "But remember, love like ours never dies." He nodded, tears falling freely. "I'll never forget. I'll wait for you. I'll find you again, no matter where, no matter when." And as I slowly dissolved into the light, leaving the world of the living behind, the chapel seemed to shimmer with a quiet magic. Guests left in stunned silence, forever changed by the impossible love they had witnessed. Though I was gone from their sight, our love endured, a promise that life and death could not erase, a bond that transcended time, space, and the very limits of reality. And in his heart, I remained alive, forever.